The sun was high in the sky over New Atlanta. The city buzzed with life like always. Drones flew above the streets, dropping packages and scanning crowds. People walked fast, heads down, talking into their earpieces or watching videos on their sleeves. The world had changed a lot in 20 years, but some things stayed the same. Marcus Ellis walked calmly through the downtown district. He wore a dark suit, clean shoes, and a quiet look on his face. He didn't rush like others. He moved like someone who had places to be, but not in a hurry. He had a small bag slung over his shoulder and sunglasses that turned black when the sun hit them. He was heading to a meeting. Not just any meeting. This one was important, but first, he needed to get there. He got into his car, a mid-sized electric sedan with tinted windows and no flashy lights. It was plain, but clean. He started the engine and pulled out into traffic. It was around 3:17 p.m. when the cop car pulled up behind him. Marcus saw the flashing lights in his mirror and frowned. "What now?" he muttered. He checked his speed. He wasn't speeding. He signaled before changing lanes. He even came to a full stop at the last light. Still, the cop behind him kept flashing his lights. Marcus pulled over slowly, keeping both hands on the wheel. He waited for the officer to come up to the window. A tall white man in a crisp uniform stepped forward. He had short hair, a strong jawline, and eyes that looked like they were always looking for trouble. His badge read, Dean Carter. "Good afternoon," Dean said, leaning down to see inside the car. "Afternoon," Marcus replied. "License and registration, please." Marcus reached into his glove box and pulled out the documents. He handed them over without a word. Dean took them, then looked at Marcus again. "You know why I pulled you over?" Marcus shook his head. "No idea." "You're not registered in this vehicle," Dean said, flipping through the pages. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "I am. Check again." Dean did. After a second, he frowned. "Huh, guess I misread that." Marcus said nothing. "Well," Dean went on, "your AI tag isn't active either. That's a violation." Marcus looked at the dash. The little red light next to his license plate camera was off. "Glitch," he said. "I'll fix it later." "Later won't cut it," Dean said. "Step out of the car." Marcus gave him a calm look. "Am I being arrested?" "Not yet," Dean said, smirking. "But if you don't step out, we can make it official." Marcus sighed. He opened the door and stepped out. He stood tall, hands by his sides. Two more cops stepped out of the cruiser behind Dean. They were younger, and they watched Marcus like he might run. "Put your hands on the hood," Dean said. Marcus did as told. He didn't speak. He didn't argue. He just stood there while Dean patted him down. Nothing came up. No weapons. No drugs. Nothing illegal. Dean stepped back and looked at his fellow officers. "Check the car." They popped the trunk and searched inside. The only thing in there was a small suitcase and a folded coat. "Nothing," one of them said. Dean scratched his chin. "Okay, you can go." Marcus straightened up. He looked at the three cops. "Thank you," he said. Then he turned to walk back to his car. Just as he reached the driver's side, Dean called out, "Hey, hold up." Marcus stopped. "Yeah? We got a report about a suspicious person matching your description, same area, same time." Marcus blinked. "So now I'm suspicious?" "Could be," Dean said with a grin. "We need to bring you in for questioning." Marcus crossed his arms. "On what grounds?" "Public safety," Dean said. "You ever heard of predictive profiling?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, it's a broken system." "Well," Dean said, "today it says you're a risk." Marcus didn't move for a moment, then he said, "Fine." He let them cuff him. He didn't fight. He didn't yell. He just walked to the back seat of the patrol car like it was normal. As they drove away, people on the street watched. Some recorded. Others kept walking. One teen posted a video online. The caption read, "Cop stops chill guy for no reason." Comments poured in. "Another case of bias? He looks innocent." "Nah, cops don't do that without cause." The video spread fast. Within an hour it had thousands of views. But most people didn't care. They'd seen this kind of thing before. Meanwhile, Marcus sat quietly in the back of the car. He stared out the window, watching the city pass by. Inside the station, things got worse. Dean led him into a small room with bright lights and cold walls. He cuffed Marcus to the table. "We're gonna talk," Dean said. Marcus looked at him. "Okay. Start talking. Where were you going? Who are you meeting?" Marcus didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, "That's none of your business." Dean laughed. "Oh, it's my business now." He leaned in close. "You think you're special? You think because you dress nice you're above the law?" Marcus looked at him. "I never said that." "Then act like it," Dean snapped. Another cop entered the room. He was older, less cocky. "Carter, we don't have anything on him." Dean waved him off. "We'll find something." The older cop hesitated, then left. For the next few hours, Marcus sat alone in the room. No food, no water, no explanation. Finally, a lawyer showed up. Young woman named Tanya Bryant. She was sharp-eyed and spoke fast. "Mr. Ellis, I've been assigned to your case. We need to talk strategy." Marcus looked at her. "There's no case," she frowned. "They're charging you with evading AI scan protocols and public suspicion." Marcus snorted. "Public suspicion isn't a crime." "Maybe not," Tanya said, "but they want to make an example of you." Marcus leaned back. "Why me?" Tanya shrugged. "You're smart, well-dressed, calm. Maybe that's why." Marcus closed his eyes. "This will all be cleared up soon." Tanya looked confused. "How?" He didn't answer. Outside, the video of the arrest had gone viral. But unlike other times, people weren't angry. They were split. Some said Marcus looked guilty. Others said he was just another black man treated unfairly. In the days that followed, the trial was announced. It would take place in a digital courtroom. The verdict would be influenced by data, not just facts. And the cops, especially Dean, were ready to play up the drama. They thought they had the upper hand. They thought they could mock him, shame him, and win public support. But they didn't. Know who Marcus really was, and when the truth came out, everything would change. The courtroom was not like the ones Marcus remembered from his childhood. There were no wooden benches or heavy doors. Instead, it was a smooth, white room filled with quiet hums and glowing screens. People sat behind glass panels. The judge was not a person, not fully. He was a mix of code and human oversight, known as Justice Hale. Marcus sat at the defense table. Next to him was Tanya Bryant, his lawyer. She looked tired but focused. Across from them, Dean Carter and the other officers stood tall in their uniforms. They smiled like they already won. The trial had started. Cameras recorded everything. Even though it was digital, some people came in person. Others watched from home on their sleeves or smart glasses. Justice Hale's voice came through the speakers. "Today we begin the public hearing of State versus Marcus Ellis. Charges include evasion of AI scan protocols, suspicion of criminal behavior, and failure to cooperate during lawful stop." He paused. "This court will consider all evidence, including data logs, video footage, and public sentiment scores." A screen above the judge lit up. It showed numbers. One said public trust, and another said risk level. Marcus's name appeared beside a red bar that read, high risk. Tanya frowned. Dean Carter stepped forward first. He was called to testify. He walked with pride like he was doing something important. "Officer Carter," the prosecutor asked, "can you tell us what happened on the day of the arrest?" Dean nodded. "Yes, I was on patrol when my AI scanner flagged a vehicle for suspicious behavior. I pulled it over. The driver was calm, yes, but that's part of the profile." "What profile?" the prosecutor asked. "The silent threat model," Dean explained. "People who act too normal can be hiding something. They don't react like most suspects. They're trained." The crowd murmured. Marcus stayed still. He didn't look angry. He didn't look scared. He just listened. "So you believed this?" "Man was dangerous?" the prosecutor asked. "I did," Dean said. "And when I searched him, he didn't resist. He didn't argue. He didn't even ask why. That's not normal behavior. It sounds like he followed protocol, Tanya said, interrupting. Dean turned to her. Or it sounds like he knew how to stay under the radar. More murmurs. Justice Hale raised a hand. Order. Let the testimony continue. Next, the second officer took the stand. He repeated the same story. He said Marcus was too calm, which made him more suspicious. Most people get nervous, the officer said. But he just stood there like nothing mattered. Did he do anything illegal? Tanya asked. No, the officer admitted. Then, why was he arrested? There was a pause. Then the officer said, because the system said so. Justice Hale's eyes flickered. Noted. As the trial went on, the cops began to relax. They laughed quietly between themselves. They joked about the case. One of them said, I bet he's never been in real trouble before. Another added, probably got rich off some tech startup and thinks he's better than us. They thought no one heard, but the microphones caught it. The audio played again in slow motion. Some viewers online picked up on it. Comments started to shift. Cops are clowning on camera. Why are they acting like this in court? This isn't about law anymore, it's about ego. But the judge allowed the jokes to stand. He said, they were contextual testimony. Tanya tried to fight back. She showed data showing that predictive profiling often failed. She argued that Marcus had no record, no criminal ties, and no reason to hide. But the judge said, we must trust the system until proven otherwise. At the end of the first day, Marcus was still labeled high risk. The AI score hadn't changed. That night, people talked online. Some said the trial was a joke. Others said the cops were doing their job. Marcus stayed quiet. He didn't speak to reporters. He didn't post anything. He only told Tanya one thing. Let them keep talking. She looked confused. Why? They're winning. Marcus gave a small smile. Not for long. The next morning, the trial continued. Justice Hale called for final statements before closing arguments. Mr. Ellis, he said, do you have anything to say before we proceed? Everyone turned to him. For 2 days, he had not spoken once, in front of the court. Now he stood slowly. He looked around the room, at the judges, the lawyers, the cops, the cameras. He took a breath. Yes, he said. I would like to address the court directly. Justice Hale blinked. You may. Marcus stepped forward. First, he said, I want to thank everyone for being here. I know this trial has been entertaining. Some people in the audience chuckled nervously. Second, he went on, I want to talk about the way this case was handled. I was stopped without cause, searched without reason, held without charge, and now I am being judged based on a machine's guess. He looked at Dean Carter. You said I acted suspicious because I was calm, because I didn't panic, because I didn't beg for mercy. Dean didn't answer. Marcus kept going. But maybe you should have wondered why someone like me would behave that way. Maybe I've seen this before. Maybe I've lived this before. He reached into his coat. Everyone tensed. Even the judge leaned forward. Marcus pulled out a small device. It clicked once. Then the lights in the room dimmed slightly. His face shimmered, like static on a screen. Then, the disguise dropped. His skin tone shifted. His facial structure changed. His hair shortened. The image of a regular man faded away. In its place stood someone else. Someone official. On the screen above, new data appeared. Name, Director Marcus Ellis Agency. Federal Bureau of Investigation rank. Highest clearance level status. Active. The courtroom fell silent. Dean Carter froze mid-breath. The other officers stared. Justice Hale blinked rapidly. Please confirm your identity. Marcus, now clearly the real Marcus, looked at the judge. Confirmed, he said. Director of the FBI, active duty. The room exploded. People shouted. The cameras zoomed in. The live feed glitched for a moment, then returned. Justice Hale raised his hand. Silence. The room quieted. Explain yourself, the judge said. Marcus crossed his arms. I was undercover, following a lead. The AI flag was not random. Someone used the system to target me, to expose me. He pointed at Dean. You were part of it, whether you knew it or not. Dean shook his head. No, that's not possible. We didn't know who you were. You didn't need to, Marcus said. You just needed to follow orders to pick someone who fit the profile. Justice Hale looked at the screen again, then at the stunned faces around the room. This changes everything, he said. Yes, Marcus agreed. It does. Outside, the world was already changing. The leaked video spread fast. Within minutes, it was everywhere. Fake trials. Cops humiliated. Respect the position social media lit up. Cop mocks FBI director thinking he's a suspect. Trial was fake. System was hacked. How many lives are ruined by this kind of mistake? The president issued a short statement. The Department of Justice is reviewing the events of today. Full cooperation is expected. Meanwhile, the cop stood frozen in place. Dean Carter looked like he might faint. Justice Hale called for a recess. Court is adjourned for 30 minutes, he said. Security, please escort the defendant to a private chamber. Marcus nodded. He turned and walked out calmly. Tanya followed, trying to process what just happened. Behind them, the courtroom buzzed with noise. Nothing would be the same after this. Nothing ever was. The private chamber was small but quiet. Marcus sat at a table, drinking water from a paper cup. Tanya Bryant paced back and forth, her heels clicking softly on the floor. She looked like she wanted to say something, but didn't know where to start. Finally, she stopped. Why didn't you tell me? Marcus set the cup down. You wouldn't have believed me. That's not true, Tanya said. I'm your lawyer. I needed to know. And now you do, Marcus replied calmly. What happens next is up to Justice Hale. Tanya shook her head. This isn't just about the trial anymore. It's bigger than that. She was right. Outside, the world was spinning out of control. News outlets replayed the moment Marcus revealed his identity over and over again. Social media was flooded with reactions. Hashtags trended globally. People were divided. Some praised Marcus as a hero. Others called him reckless for going undercover without backup. Conspiracy theories spread like wildfire. One group claimed the whole thing was staged to distract from corporate corruption. Another said Marcus was part of a secret government experiment. Meanwhile, the cops involved in the arrest faced immediate consequences. Dean Carter and his team were suspended pending investigation. Their names appeared online alongside screenshots of their smug faces during the trial. Memes mocked them relentlessly. Comments ranged from jokes to threats. Inside the courtroom, the recess ended. Justice Hale returned to his seat. The room was tense. Reporters whispered among themselves. Even the officers who had laughed earlier looked pale. Justice Hale cleared his throat. Given the new information presented by the defendant, this case must be reassessed. Mr. Ellis, Director Ellis, has confirmed his status as an active federal agent operating under covert protocols. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. All charges against him are hereby dismissed. A wave of murmurs swept through the room. Cameras flashed. Someone clapped but quickly stopped when others glared. Justice Hale continued. However, questions remain regarding the misuse of predictive profiling systems and the circumstances surrounding this arrest. These matters will be referred to a special investigative committee. He turned to Dean Carter and his fellow officers. You three are remanded into custody pending further review. Bail is denied due to public interest concerns. Dean stood frozen. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. The other two officers exchanged panicked looks. Security guards stepped forward to escort them away. As they left, someone in the audience shouted, "Serves you right!" Outside the courthouse, chaos erupted. Protesters gathered quickly. Some held signs reading "Respect Authority" and "End AI Bias." Others carried placards with slogans like "Justice for All" and "Stop Targeting Innocents." Drones hovered overhead, capturing every detail. Inside, Marcus remained calm. He stood beside Tanya as reporters swarmed around them. Director Ellis, can you explain why you went undercover? One asked. Was this part of a larger operation? Another pressed. How does It failed to expose corruption within law enforcement? Marcus raised a hand. The crowd fell silent. My work speaks for itself, he said. What happened today was not personal. It was systemic. The tools we use to protect society have been weaponized against it. Until we fix that, nothing changes. His voice was steady, clear. It carried authority but also sadness. Thank you, he added before turning to leave. Tanya followed close behind. Together they walked out of the courthouse and into the bright sunlight. Cameras clicked wildly. Protesters cheered. Marcus ignored it all. He climbed into a black car waiting at the curb and drove off without looking back. Later that evening, Marcus sat alone in a secure office deep inside FBI headquarters. The room was dimly lit. Files covered the desk. Holographic screens floated in midair displaying streams of data. He stared at one screen in particular. It showed internal communications intercepted days before his arrest. Messages between unknown parties discussing ways to neutralize him. Whoever had targeted him knew exactly what they were doing. They used the system to make him look guilty, to make him vulnerable, to destroy him, not because of who he was, but because of what he represented. Marcus leaned back in his chair. He closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them again and reached for his phone. He dialed a number. Hello? A woman answered. It's me, Marcus said. We need to move faster. On the other end of the line, Director Linda Mitchell sighed. I thought you'd say that. How bad is it? Worse than I expected, Marcus admitted. They're trying to take us down from the inside. Linda hesitated. Do you think they'll succeed? Not if I have anything to say about it, Marcus replied firmly. Back in the city, the fallout continued. Dean Carter sat in a holding cell, staring at the wall. He couldn't believe what had happened. One minute he was cracking jokes in court. The next he was a national laughingstock. How could I have known? He muttered to himself. But deep down, he did know. He had seen Marcus's face on TV before. Everyone had. He just hadn't connected the dots, or maybe he hadn't wanted to. In her office, District Attorney Lisa Grant watched the news unfold with growing dread. She had built her career on high-profile cases. This one was supposed to be her ticket to fame. Instead, it was her downfall. Reporters hammered her with questions. Colleagues avoided her calls. Even her family seemed distant. She poured herself a drink and sat in silence. The clock ticked loudly. Meanwhile, ordinary people debated the trial online. This proves the system is broken, one user wrote. No, it proves humans are flawed, another replied. Machines only do what we program them to do. So, why program them to discriminate? A third chimed in. The conversation went on and on with no clear answers. By morning, the story had grown even bigger. Leaked documents revealed that Marcus wasn't the first target. Dozens of others had been flagged by the same AI system. Many had been arrested. Some had served time. None had connections to actual crimes. Public outrage reached a boiling point. Protests spread across the country. Politicians scrambled to respond. The president held an emergency press conference. This administration takes these allegations seriously, he said. A full review of predictive profiling technology will begin immediately. Those responsible will be held accountable. But skepticism remained. Many doubted promises of reform. They pointed to past scandals that had faded without real change. Amidst the turmoil, Marcus kept working. He met with agents, analysts, and whistleblowers. He reviewed evidence. He pieced together clues. Slowly, a picture emerged. A private security conglomerate called Prism Dynamics was behind the attacks. They specialized in surveillance tech and AI development. Their clients included governments, corporations, and wealthy individuals. Prism had grown too powerful, too influential. They saw Marcus as a threat to their operations. So they tried to eliminate him. But Marcus wasn't afraid. He had spent years preparing for moments like this. He knew how to fight back. As the days passed, the pressure mounted. Prism fought back fiercely. They planted fake stories, hacked databases, bribed officials. They did everything they could to discredit Marcus. But Marcus stayed one step ahead. He released evidence to trusted journalists. He exposed illegal contracts. He revealed secret deals. The public watched in awe. Some called him a hero. Others called him dangerous. Few understood the full scope of what he was doing. But Marcus didn't care about titles. He cared about results. One night, as the sun set over the city, Marcus stood on the rooftop of FBI headquarters. He looked out at the skyline. Lights twinkled in the distance. Drones zipped through the air. He thought about everything that had happened, about the lives ruined by flawed systems, about the battles still to come. Then he turned and walked back inside. There was work to do. The days turned into weeks. Marcus worked tirelessly. He barely slept. His phone buzzed constantly with messages, updates, and warnings. People came to him with secrets. Whistleblowers shared files. Hackers sent encrypted codes. Every piece of information added to the puzzle. Meanwhile, Prism Dynamics fought back harder. They weren't just a company anymore. They were a shadowy force pulling strings behind the scenes. Their influence stretched across industries, governments, and even law enforcement agencies. Prism launched a smear campaign against Marcus. They claimed he was unstable, reckless, dangerous. They said his actions threatened national security. They accused him of abusing his position for personal gain. Some people believed them, others didn't. But Marcus didn't care about the lies. He focused on the truth. He called a meeting with his closest team members. They gathered in a secure room deep underground. Holographic screens displayed maps, graphs, and timelines. Data streamed in real time. "We've uncovered enough," Marcus said. "Prism has been manipulating predictive profiling systems for years. They use AI to target innocent people, to silence critics, to protect their clients." His voice was calm but firm. "This isn't just about me. It's about everyone affected by their schemes. We need to expose them completely." One agent raised her hand. "How?" "They're too powerful." Marcus smiled faintly. "Power doesn't last forever. Not when you're caught lying." He pointed at the screen. "Look at this. These are internal emails from Prism executives. They admit to rigging trials, framing suspects, bribing officials. Everything." Another agent frowned. "But how do we prove it? They'll deny it all." "Not if we hit them where it hurts," Marcus replied. "Their reputation, their profits, their connections. We take away what they value most." The team nodded. They understood. They had seen Prism's damage firsthand. Over the next few days, Marcus executed his plan. He leaked documents to trusted journalists. He released videos showing Prism executives discussing illegal deals. He exposed contracts that linked Prism to corrupt politicians and corporations. The world reacted instantly. News outlets ran non-stop coverage. Social media exploded with outrage. Protests erupted in cities worldwide. People demanded answers. Justice. Change. Prism tried to defend itself. They issued statements denying wrongdoing. They blamed rogue employees. They accused Marcus of fabricating evidence, but the proof was undeniable. Too many details matched up. Too many witnesses came forward. As the scandal grew, Prism's stock plummeted. Investors pulled out. Clients canceled contracts. Employees quit in droves. Behind closed doors, Prism's leaders panicked. In a secret boardroom, executives gathered around a table. Laptops displayed financial losses. Phones rang endlessly. Tension filled the air. "What do we do?" one man asked. Another slammed his fist on the table. "We stop him, whatever it takes." A third shook his head. "It's too late. The public won't forgive us." The first man stood up. "Then we destroy him." Back at FBI headquarters, Marcus received a warning. "They're coming after you," Linda Mitchell told him. "Be careful," Marcus nodded. "I expected as much." That night, he stayed late in his office. He reviewed files, checked security, feeds, made calls. He knew Prism wouldn't give up easily. Outside, the city buzzed with activity. Protesters marched through the streets. Reporters camped outside buildings. Drones hovered above crowds. Inside, Marcus remained calm. He had faced danger before. This time was no different. Early the next morning, an alert flashed on his screen. Attempted hack detected. The message read. Marcus wasn't surprised. He activated countermeasures. Firewalls blocked intruders. Alarms sounded in nearby rooms. Within minutes, agents rushed to his side. They secured the area. They monitored systems. They kept watch. Prism's attack failed. Desperate, Prism tried again. This time, they hired mercenaries. Skilled fighters trained for covert missions. They planned to break into FBI headquarters and eliminate Marcus. But Marcus anticipated their move. He set traps, deployed decoys, used surveillance tech to track their movements. When the mercenaries arrived, they walked straight into an ambush. Agents arrested them quickly. Weapons were confiscated, identities revealed. The mercenaries admitted everything under questioning. They named their employers, confirmed orders, provided evidence. Prism's leaders realized they had lost. On the morning of the final showdown, Marcus held a press conference. Reporters packed the room. Cameras rolled. Microphones clicked on. Marcus stepped up to the podium. He looked calm, composed, confident. Today, he began, marks the end of an era. For years, Prism Dynamics has operated above the law. They've manipulated systems, silenced voices, destroyed lives. He paused. The room fell silent. No more. He gestured to a screen behind him. It lit up, displaying documents, photos, and videos. This is their legacy. Corruption, greed, betrayal. They thought they were untouchable. They were wrong. The crowd erupted. Cheers echoed. Applause thundered. When the noise died down, Marcus continued. Justice will be served. Those responsible will face consequences. Laws will be rewritten. Systems rebuilt. Trust restored. He leaned forward slightly. But this isn't just about Prism. It's about all of us. We allowed this to happen. Now, we must fix it. His voice softened. Together. The room went quiet again. People listened closely. Some nodded. Others wiped tears. Finally, Marcus stepped back. Thank you. As he left the stage, reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Drones zoomed overhead. Marcus ignored them. He walked calmly toward the exit. Outside, the sun shone brightly. The air smelled fresh. The city felt alive. For the first time in weeks, Marcus smiled. It wasn't over yet. There was still work to do, battles to fight, wounds to heal. But today, they had won. And tomorrow, they would begin anew. The days after the press conference were chaotic. Marcus's revelation sent shockwaves across the world. Prism Dynamics crumbled under the weight of evidence. Their offices were raided, executives were arrested, assets were frozen. What had once been a powerful corporation was now reduced to rubble. But Marcus knew this was only the beginning. He sat in his office late at night, surrounded by stacks of files and glowing screens. His phone buzzed constantly with calls, messages, and updates. People wanted answers. They wanted justice. They wanted change. Marcus didn't sleep much. He couldn't. There was too much to do, too many lives to fix, too many systems to rebuild. He leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. For a moment, he let himself think about everything that had happened. The arrest, the trial, the exposure. It felt like a lifetime ago. Then he shook his head. There was no time for reflection. Not yet. The next morning, Marcus called a meeting with his team. They gathered in the same secure room where they had planned Prism's downfall. Holographic screens displayed new data. Maps showed protests spreading globally. Graphs tracked public sentiment scores. Prism is gone, Marcus said. But the damage they caused isn't. His voice was calm but serious. Predictive profiling systems are still broken. Innocent people are still being targeted. Trust in institutions is still low. We need to fix it all. One agent raised her hand. Where do we start? Marcus pointed at the screen. With the AI, it's the root of the problem. Another agent frowned. But AI isn't bad on its own. It's how it's used. Exactly. Marcus replied. We don't get rid of it. We make it better, fairer, safer. He turned to face the group. We'll rewrite the algorithms, remove biases, add safeguards, ensure transparency. No more black boxes, no more secrets. The team nodded. They understood. They had seen firsthand how flawed the system was. Over the next few weeks, Marcus worked tirelessly. He collaborated with experts, consulted whistleblowers, studied case files. Every detail mattered. Meanwhile, the fallout from Prism's collapse continued. Protests grew larger, voices louder, demands clearer. People took to the streets. They held signs reading "Fix the system and justice for all." They chanted slogans. They shared stories of injustice. Some cried. Others shouted. All wanted change. Politicians scrambled to respond. Congress held hearings. Committees reviewed policies. Laws were proposed. Debates raged, but progress was slow. Bureaucracy dragged its feet. Lobbyists fought back. Old habits died hard. Marcus watched it all unfold. He knew change wouldn't come overnight, but he also knew it had to start somewhere. He released a statement, calling for unity. This isn't about one person or one company, he said. It's about all of us. Together, we can build something better. His words resonated. People listened, some acted, others waited. Inside FBI headquarters, Marcus pushed forward. He worked with engineers to redesign predictive profiling systems. He tested prototypes, analyzed results, made adjustments. It wasn't easy. Mistakes happened, setbacks occurred, but Marcus stayed focused. We're close, he told his team one evening. Just a little more. They believed him. They trusted him. They followed him. Finally, after months of work, the new system was ready. It was unveiled during a live broadcast. Marcus stood on stage in front of a massive screen. Reporters packed the room, cameras rolled, drones hovered overhead. Today, Marcus began, we introduce a new era of fairness, a new way of protecting society. He gestured to the screen behind him. It lit up, displaying diagrams, charts, and simulations. This system is transparent, accountable, equitable. It doesn't judge based on race, gender, or background. It focuses on behavior, not bias. The crowd erupted. Cheers echoed. Applause thundered. When the noise died down, Marcus continued, This isn't perfect. Nothing ever is. But it's a step forward, a step toward justice. He leaned forward slightly. And it's just the beginning. As he left the stage, reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Drones zoomed overhead. Marcus ignored them. He walked calmly toward the exit. Outside, the sun shone brightly. The air smelled fresh. The city felt alive. For the first time in months, Marcus smiled, but his smile faded quickly. He knew the fight wasn't over. New challenges would arise. New battles would come. Still, he felt hope. Real hope, the kind that came from knowing you'd done your best. That night, Marcus returned to his office. He sat at his desk, staring at the empty screens. His phone buzzed again, but he didn't answer. Instead, he opened a drawer and pulled out a small photo. It was old, worn at the edges. It showed a younger Marcus standing beside his parents. They looked proud, happy. Marcus stared at the photo for a long time. Then he set it down and turned off the lights. He walked out of the office and into the hallway. Agents saluted as he passed. Janitors nodded respectfully. Everyone knew what he had done. Outside, the city buzzed with life. Cars honked. Drones zipped through the air. People laughed and talked. Marcus stepped onto the sidewalk and looked around. For a moment, he let himself feel the weight of everything. The victories, the losses, the sacrifices. Then he took a deep breath and started walking. He didn't know where he was going. Maybe home, maybe somewhere else. All he knew was that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to make things right. And he would be ready. Months passed. The new predictive profiling system was rolled out across the country. At first, people were skeptical. They had seen promises broken before, but this time felt different. The changes were real, tangible, measurable. Reports showed fewer false arrests. Innocent people stopped being flagged as threats. Communities began to trust law enforcement again, not fully, but enough to start healing. Marcus watched it all from behind the scenes. He didn't seek attention anymore. He didn't give interviews or attend ceremonies. Instead, he worked quietly, ensuring the system stayed fair and transparent. But his name was everywhere. People talked about him, praised him, criticized him. Some called him a hero. Others said he went too far. Few understood the full scope of what he had done. Inside FBI headquarters, Marcus sat in his office late one evening. The room was dimly lit. Files covered the desk. Holographic screens floated in mid-air, displaying streams of data. He stared at the screen showing public sentiment scores. They had improved significantly since the rollout of the new system. Trust in institutions was rising. Hope was returning. Still, Marcus wasn't satisfied. He knew the work would never truly end. There would always be flaws to fix, biases to address, injustices to fight. His phone buzzed. It was Director Linda Mitchell. "Marcus," she said, "you need to see this." He clicked on the link she sent. It was a video, grainy footage recorded by a drone. It showed protests in another city. People holding signs, chanting slogans, demanding justice. But something was different. The signs weren't just about the system. They were about Marcus. "Thank you, Director Ellis," one sign read. "We believe in you," another said. "Justice starts here." Marcus leaned back in his chair. He felt a mix of emotions: pride, guilt, responsibility. He hadn't asked for this. He hadn't wanted it. But it was his now. The next day, Marcus announced his resignation. It came as a shock to many. Reporters swarmed outside FBI headquarters. Cameras flashed. Drones hovered overhead. Questions flew like arrows. "Why are you leaving? What will you do next? How can we trust anyone after you?" Marcus held a brief press conference. He stood calmly on stage, surrounded by agents and colleagues. "I've done what I set out to do," he said. "The system is fixed. Trust is growing. Justice is closer than ever." He paused. The room fell silent. "But my job isn't to lead forever. It's to pave the way for others, to show that change is possible, that fairness matters." His voice softened. "This agency needs fresh eyes, new ideas, someone who can take it even further." He stepped back from the podium. "Thank you." As he left the stage, reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Drones zoomed overhead. Marcus ignored them. He walked calmly toward the exit. Outside, the sun shone brightly. The air smelled fresh. The city felt alive. For the first time in years, Marcus felt free. He didn't go home right away. Instead, he walked through the streets. He watched people go about their lives. Kids played on sidewalks. Vendors sold food. Couples laughed and talked. He stopped at a park and sat on a bench. He closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them again and looked around. A young girl approached him. She couldn't have been more than 10 years old. She held a piece of paper in her hand. "Are you really Director Ellis?" she asked. Marcus smiled faintly. "Yes." She handed him the paper. It was a drawing. Stick figures holding hands under a bright sun. At the bottom, she had written, "Thank you for making things better." Marcus stared at the drawing. His throat tightened. He nodded slowly. "Thank you." The girl smiled and ran back to her parents. Marcus folded the paper carefully and put it in his pocket. He stood up and continued walking. He didn't know where he was going. Maybe nowhere. Maybe somewhere new. All he knew was that he had done his part. He had fought the battles, exposed the truth, built the foundation. Now, it was up to others to carry the torch. Weeks later, Marcus disappeared from public life. His name stopped appearing in headlines. His face faded from news feeds. Rumors spread about where he had gone. Some said he retired to a quiet town. Others claimed he joined a secret organization. A few believed he kept working undercover, fighting injustice in ways no one could see. None of them were wrong. None of them were right. Meanwhile, the world changed. Protests turned into movements. Laws were rewritten, systems rebuilt, trust restored. Schools taught lessons about Marcus Ellis, how he stood up to corruption, how he fixed broken systems, how he inspired millions. In one classroom, a teacher showed a holographic replay of the trial, the moment Marcus revealed his identity. The gasps, the silence. "What did this teach us?" the teacher asked. A student raised her hand, that sometimes the truth wears a disguise just to survive long enough to speak. The teacher smiled. Exactly. Far away in a small apartment, Marcus watched the same replay on an old screen. He leaned back in his chair and sighed. Then, he turned off the screen and walked to the window. He looked out at the city skyline. Lights twinkled in the distance. Drones zipped through the air. He thought about everything that had happened, about the lives touched, the battles fought, the victories won, and he smiled, not because it was over, but because it had only just begun.